Hello and welcome back to another episode of Craven Some Raven. Now, we didn't have a game on Sunday, so I will not be breaking down. Kind of already talked about that Jets game a little bit. So, in this episode, maybe I'll be looking towards the future a little bit, be looking at the playoff standings and, my thoughts and feelings about the playoffs. I'm sure I will get into it later on, especially as they get closer. But, talking about them now, some teams I'm scared of. And what I kind of expect, and maybe looking towards the future of the offseason and team building and the draft, and maybe not so much players, but how do the Ravens want to build this team? How do I want the Ravens to build this team? How you want the Ravens to build this team? We'll get into all of that, but let's talk about some of this this playoff look, looking. How's it looking, right? Obviously the Ravens have the first seed. They have not clinched it up yet. If they win against the Browns this Sunday, which I think is very likely, then they do clinch the first overall seed. The first time I think that's ever happened. The Ravens will be hosting in the playoffs, but that has its own challenges, right? That bye week. What do you? I mean, Week 17, do you sit your starters? But you still have that bye week. How many teams have we seen? Number one teams, number two teams have that break, and then they come out and looking like trash. Now, I don't think the Ravens are one of these teams. We saw them coming out of the bye during the year, beating the Patriots on Sunday night. So it was a bye week plus because I had to wait all the way until the end of Sunday to play. But under John Harbaugh, they've had a lot of success coming out of the bye week. I've seen them put up stinkers, so that's still a possibility. And going up against a very good team, we don't know. We don't know how it's going to work. I'm typically never really a huge fan of the bye week because of those things that I've said. They come out cold. They're not on their A game. They're not in rhythm like they were because they had that break. But the way this team has been playing, I really don't see that being an issue. But it is the playoffs, things change in the playoffs. It's a whole new season. And I've talked about this last episode that, we don't know for sure. Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, it could be his bugaboo, right? It could be his thing where he can't get over that hump. Now, I'm a betting man, and I would say I would bet on Lamar Jackson and this Ravens team to continue their, dominance, really. But, we still just don't know. We saw him in that Chargers game, but we also saw him kind of turn it up at the end there. I think that was a very humbling experience for him. I think that's part of the reason why he's having so much success this year is because he went into the offseason saying, I played like trash, played like garbage. You got that chip on your shoulder. You got all of those eyes on you in the playoff game, and you produce like shit, and you don't play well. And I think, the vision of himself, he thought of himself as a great player, which he is. And so he's looking at that tape and looking at it in the offseason like, I ain't never going to let this happen again. This is not going to be my legacy. This is not going to be me. I know who I am. I'm Lamar Jackson. I'm the best to ever do it. So, we're hoping, right, that it's not going to be an issue. But we don't know. I don't think it's going to be, but we don't know. I'm just going to keep saying the same thing over and over again. This is going to be a podcast where I just say the same thing over and over again. How many different ways can I say it, right? But next you got the Patriots at number 2. They have not clinched anything yet. I think the Chiefs are right on their heels. New England has a tough matchup up against the Bills. We saw what the Bills did against New England earlier in the year. It was a very close game. I think that was the only game that the Patriots won up against a decent opponent, a playoff opponent. No offense to those guys, but seriously, all offense. The Patriots, they may be the number 2 seed. They just know how to win. But if you look at their team, they're nothing special. It takes trick plays and up-tempo offense to even get a couple points on us. It takes a crazy turnover, a mishap to a guy that's not even on our team anymore, and to a guy in Cyrus Jones that he had open heart surgery. So obviously there was something off with him. Before the season started, I remember there was something weird with him where he he didn't show up, but it was for an undisclosed reason, and they never really reported why. And then we see he's getting open heart surgeries. Prayers out to him, but that could have been an issue with him. Baltimore native, everyone loves him, but he dropped that fumble, and it allowed the Patriots to get back into that game. I've talked about momentum, too much on this show, and they should keep a score. They should keep a tally on momentum. I know you can't really quantify it, but I think they should put point values to different things that happen in a game, and they should kind of keep a running tally of who's got the momentum and who doesn't. Something good happens, it's like you put a value to it. Like, let's say there's a blocked punt. That's a 3-point swing, right? Where if you had 3 points in momentum, it now goes to the other team. So it's like a 6-point swing. That's neither here nor there. Maybe we can work on that in the offseason. We can come up with a great system, and then I can keep a tally of it while watching the Ravens games. I can have my rules set up, and I will keep a running tally of the momentum in the game. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I think it makes a lot of sense, though, too, because momentum is 100% a thing in football. And so when you're talking about the playoffs coming up and them having a bye week, how does that disrupt team momentum, right? Because they have all this momentum going into the playoffs, but then they have to sit, right? Momentum isn't just an in-game series-to-series, play-to-play thing. It's also, a game-to-game thing. It's a league-wide thing, or it's a season-to-season thing. You look at the Patriots, the reason they've been so successful, even though they've had not the greatest team this year, it's because their team has momentum. They've got rollover momentum minutes that's just been stockpiled for years and years, and they are cashing them in to get these wins. So, I'll maybe go into that. I'll work on that. I'll try and, get point values because, a touchdown, that may be worth 7 points on the board, but sometimes, depending on the situation, momentum points, it may not be the same. So I'll work on that. You can let me know, if you're listening on YouTube, comment down below, like what you think the point value should be. Because I think a blocked punt might be worth more than a touchdown, right? Because that is huge momentum. And it always depends on the score of the game. So I think it's a real fluid point system. Let's say your team's down by 7 points in the fourth quarter and you get an interception. Now that may be worth more than an interception in the first quarter, right? It should be. That should be like a 6-point momentum boost and like a 3-point take away from them. It'll be determined. I'll work on that. I didn't even think that was going to be a thing. I didn't even realize that. I thought that this would be a good idea, but I think it is. I think this might be something I want to get into a little bit more and start tracking momentum. It will never be a perfect system, but we can try, right? We can try. You heard it here first on Cravens and Raven Podcast, baby. We will track the momentum. Now, the 3 seed is the Kansas City Chiefs. I think, like I said, New England, if they lose and Kansas City wins, I don't know who Kansas City plays this week, but this is the team that scares me the most, strictly because of their offense. Now, we have yet to play them at home. And the way it's looking like the Ravens are going to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They just got to beat the Browns or beat the Steelers the next week. We got to win one of those 2 weeks, and I think we are guaranteed the 1 seed. Even if we lose this week and the Patriots win, we have the tiebreaker, and the Kansas City wins. We don't have the tiebreaker, but there'll still be a game back. So we really just have to win one of these 2 games. But, Lamar Jackson has not beaten Kansas City yet. He has not beat a Patrick Mahomes-led team. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, we have not beaten that team yet. Has me worried, but at the same time, the same vein, we haven't played them at home. That's a huge deal. That's a huge, in the betting world, that's a 3-point swing. In the spread, that you get 3 points just in that scenario. And hopefully they'll be playing on Wild Card Weekend, so they'll be a little bit more beat up. I know Tyreek Hill is an electrifying player, but the guy can't stay on the field. Right? This speed guy, he's a Ferrari. He's always in the shop. He's fast as hell. He'll beat anybody off the line. Maybe he's more of a Tesla because Teslas, they burn they burn the line, right? That electric motor, the new age, this metaphor is kind of falling apart, just like a Tesla, though. So maybe it makes perfect sense because he is always injured. Every single game I've watched the Chiefs, Tyreek Hill goes out at some point due to a cramp or there's like a pebble in his shoe. He's fragile. So hopefully he doesn't play. So hopefully this extra game, when they come to play us, if they do, that'll be good for us. I'm just nervous about them because they put up a lot of points, right? And that's how you deflate this Ravens team. This is how you stop them because we are a momentum team, right? We are a time of possession team. Don't get down, always stay ahead of the chains, that kind of team. And last time we were down was in the 49ers game. We ended up coming back, but we were never down by multiple touchdowns until except for our 2 losses versus the Browns and these Chiefs. So they definitely have me worried. Mahomes is special. But Andy Reid in the playoffs, he's been meh. Has he won a Super Bowl yet? I don't know. Now, there's lots of things that go into that. It's not all on Andy Reid, but he's the head coach. And he's had issues with clock management in the playoffs. I think last year they were a coin flip away from winning that AFC championship and then going to the Super Bowl. And who knows how that game ends up. I remember last year, Kansas City versus what would have been the Rams. They had that crazy, was it a Thursday night game or a Monday night game where it totaled over 100 points. Fucking crazy. But this team has me worried. And then the Houston Texans at number 4, we blew the doors off this team. They do not make me nervous at all after seeing Deshaun Watson. I know he can do something special, and I talked about that before we played him. He can make anything happen, right? He got kicked in the face. He was looking for his eye and still threw a touchdown. And I said, like if I get an eyelash in my eye right now, I'm going to have to pause the podcast and I won't be able to continue until I get that eyelash out because it's annoying. So he can do something special. But after seeing what we did to him, this Texans team does not have me nervous. Deshaun Watson loves to hold on to the ball, and that's where our pass rush thrives. They are not beat their man instantly and get to the quarterback in half a second. No, they are Mike Myersing their way back, and I've talked about this multiple times. That is my strategy. When I get into the future in the off season in this podcast, when I talk about that, I will definitely be speaking on the Mike Myers of pass rush. 5th seed is the Buffalo Bills. We struggled against them a little bit, but I think generally we are just a better team. The Bills have surprised me. I thought they were a fake 9-3 at the time. What are they now? 10-4. So they've definitely put in the work. They have an easier schedule, but they've put up the points. They've won the games to put them in this spot. I think the Patriots and Bills, both of them are a little bit fraudy. That small little level of fraudiness just because of the amount of good teams that they haven't played. Or I guess, the good teams, they haven't really played many of them. And the ones they have, they've struggled. So I'm thinking the Bills are a one and done. And the way it sits right now, the Bills are playing the Texans. In that game, what the fuck's going to happen? The Bills might win that game. But I think it's just a default because someone has to win that game. Maybe the Texans come up big and then, who knows? I haven't really worked out. Once the playoff picture becomes solidified, then I'll do a bracket and predict my Super Bowl and all that fun stuff. But last but not least, right now, currently in the 6th seed is those fucking goddamn Steelers. And besides the Chiefs, this Steelers team is what I hate the most, or scared of the most, just because they're a divisional opponent. Not the team, nothing about that. I know we had a close game to them, but that was a week after we lost to the Browns. That was, it seems like a season ago. Our defense has changed tremendously, and we get to play them in 2 weeks, in Week 17. So we'll get another look at them to see how our teams stack up yet again. We've changed a lot since then, but it's just the fact that they are a divisional opponent. That has me nervous. I know I said, that when you're a home team and you're betting the spread, the home team always gets 3 points. And I think similarly, When it's divisional opponents playing, I think the Ravens are definitely good. If they would play them in the playoffs, they definitely would be favored. But I think just because they are divisional opponents, you give them that 3-point boost like it would be a home game, right? So it has me nervous. Are we playing? Did we play the Steelers at their place too? Was that a Steelers home game when we played them? And there's those stupid fucking interceptions that ain't gonna happen again. The refs are not gonna give the Steelers those interceptions again. And right now they're in the playoffs, and you're looking who's outside the playoff picture. It's the Tennessee Titans, and the Cleveland Browns and Oakland Raiders are both still technically in it. But I think it's going to come down to the Steelers and the Titans. At this moment, these are the two teams. I trust neither of them. I think both of them are going to be one and done when they get to the playoffs. I think Tennessee's more likely to be the team that wins. As of right now, they'd be facing Kansas City. I don't see these teams going by. But, it's kind of similar. It could be New England at number 3 and the Chiefs at number 2. I could see these teams switching. These seedings aren't 100% solidified yet. But, Steelers play the Chiefs or the Patriots. I think the Pittsburgh loses either one of those games. The Titans, if they're in the 6th seed and they play either the Chiefs or the Patriots, I think Tennessee could beat Kansas City. I think New England would beat Tennessee just because it's Mike Vrabel and it's a juggernaut. I don't know. Did Tennessee beat the Patriots? Did they play this year? I really don't know. But I think, this in the hunt category where it's Tennessee, Cleveland Browns, and the Oakland Raiders, I really think the only in the hunt is Tennessee. I know mathematically the Browns and the Raiders are still in it, but come on. It's going to take 2 losses from not just one team, but multiple teams for them to even get in it. And in the division, both of them, look, it says in the division, the Cleveland Browns are 6 games behind, 6 games back. There's only 2 games left, dude. The Oakland Raiders 4 games back in their division. They got the Chiefs and they got who else they got in that division? Anybody else in the playoffs? No. No. Either way, everyone else in their division is eliminated. But the 2 teams that make me the most nervous are playing currently in that wild card weekend, the Steelers and the Chiefs. So one of them is automatically eliminated. And depending on who wins, we would either face the winner of the Bills and Texans. So hopefully the Chiefs, they would go and play New England, and New England could steamroll them. The Chiefs struggle against New England, except this year they won. So what am I talking about? But, it could be a New England Ravens AFC Championship, and we've seen what they did to New England, and everyone's gonna say, "Oh, Bill Belichick, oh, he did it on purpose, oh, he was just waiting." Maybe. Who fucking knows? All I know is we did pretty much steamroll them, other than a couple plays here and there that were huge momentum shifters, right? Like I was saying earlier, the momentum point value was really high on those plays that the Patriots made. Sometimes it's, they were higher than estimated. You would have I'm thinking about this system now, how I'm going to do it, like where you have an interception, right? Automatically, it's worth 3 momentum points. That's what it's worth. Now, depending on the situation, it could be worth 2, it could be worth 4, 5. Depending on the spot, it could be worth 6. So, I just think a lot of those plays in that New England game that brought them back in, that were huge momentum swings, they were higher point values than they normally would have been, right? Like that turnover. Normally that turnover by Cyrus Jones, it's a 2-point swing, but since the Patriots were down and they needed a play, it was worth 3-4 points. We will work on this, all right? This ain't going away. I like this idea. Of trying to quantify momentum, because no one's done that. No one's tried to do that. There's probably a reason, because it won't be successful, but we can kind of work on a system. We can work on a system, right? We can track it almost like it's like when you're like people track like baseball plays. You got the play down, you write a point value, and then you just add it up slowly but surely throughout the whole game, and we'll see how efficient this system is. So yeah, I mean that's the playoff picture. Not going to dive into the NFC because the Ravens aren't in the NFC. So who gives a fuck? We'll see whoever in the Super Bowl, right? And at this point, it is for the Ravens fans, for the Ravens team, for everybody who enjoys watching this Ravens team. It feels like Super Bowl or bust. Maybe not bust because it's Lamar Jackson is a very young player. The Ravens are going to have a ton of cap room this upcoming year. We're going to have a chance to even improve. I thought possibly next year was a year where we contend. With this year being it was a terrible loss in the championship, or we get 2 playoff wins, we get closer, and then we use it as a learning experience, use it as a humbling experience, kind of like what Lamar did with last year's game against the Chargers. Use that as fuel, like the 2012 Ravens, where they had that terrible loss in the AFC Championship, but everyone kind of unanimously agrees that 2011 team was better. So, they do need a little bit of hardship. But this team is playing out of their fucking mind. John Harbaugh, before the season start, saying we're going to revolutionize the offense. Like, okay, buddy. It's like that classic, the new meme, okay, boomer. Whatever, dude. Like, no, you're just saying shit. That's ridiculous. You can't predict that. You can't say that. But damn near, this has been a revolutionary year of offense. They've really changed things up, the way they've used the running game. Maybe not revolutionary, but they brought it back to that 1970s style, the wing tee, run the ball down your throat, but doing it with such an electric quarterback. I've compared this Ravens offense to a resto mod. When you take an old classic car, you take like a 1960s, like a 69 Corvette, like a nice Stingray, and honestly one of my favorite looking cars. And then you put like modern suspension, like some power steering, great new tires, maybe upgrade the engine a little bit. You make it new. On the inside, there's a radio. You got touch screens and stuff. You got buttons for things, levers, and all sorts of stuff. So it's like the insides are new, but it still looks like that classic vehicle. So it's not the perfect analogy because the way this offense goes, it's classic. In theory, the way they're doing things is classic, but it looks new. It's fresh, right? So it's this Ravens offense is similar to a resto mod, but it's not quite the perfect analogy. I just can't think of another one. This team is taking plays from a 69 Corvette. They're taking plays from a 69 Stingray, but they're putting, parts from a Z06 in, right? Elements of a Z06, so you're getting like the best of both worlds because it's old school, but yet flashy and new school. And what Lamar Jackson is doing is just out of this fucking world, and it's amazing to watch. And it brings up the question, what happens? There's been a lot of history of running quarterbacks, and they don't play long. If he plays like this for 6 years, I could give a fuck, right? I could give 2 shits. I want them to win a Super Bowl. If he gets 1 Super Bowl, if he gets no Super Bowls, the enjoyment that I get from watching this team, obviously, it'd be a huge disappointment if they don't get a Super Bowl, especially the way they've been playing. This is just 1 year of it. We have multiple years. He's got a rookie contract, and then after that, we'll see how they want to do things. But, this is the most fun I've ever had watching Ravens games. And like I said, it would be disappointing if they don't get a Super Bowl. A Super Bowl or bust. But I would not be upset. I wouldn't say, this is what happens when you have a running quarterback. It just doesn't work in the NFL. No, it's just super exciting. And, the Super Bowl, I've talked about this before, it takes luck. Really. You have to have a good team, but at some point during the playoffs, the ball has to bounce your way, even in the Super Bowl, right? That last Super Bowl with the Ravens, that Jacoby Jones, the Hail Mary, that Denver Broncos game, the 4th and 27, 26, whatever it was. Hey, diddle, your mom up the middle. It took something crazy, something special. But, it's just the way it goes. You don't just dominate your way to a Super Bowl and win it. I mean, you look at the Patriots in 2007 when they go 16-0 in the regular season, like, oh, is this it? Is this it? And they get stopped in the Super Bowl. So, it's all hearsay really at this point, just because, the playoff picture isn't here. But, it makes you think about the future of this team and how they want to build the team. And that's what I want to talk about. This team it's still, I thought it'd be like a year away from really being like true Super Bowl contenders. Like, I thought they could be good this year, but I thought there would still be some questions. Now, I'm not surprised by anything, because I've talked about everything that's happened or I thought would happen in this season, and I wouldn't have been surprised by anything. Even after that Browns game, I was saying, even a 14-2 team loses twice. It was kind of jokingly, but hey, I said it, so it's out there. But I mean, how do the Ravens want to build this team? Depending on the success this year, they're going to be, picking last, second last, third to last, fourth to last. They're going to be like the last 4 picks no matter what. Pretty sure that's guaranteed at this point. They still have to win one playoff game and all that fun stuff. But how do you want to see the Ravens build this team? I have some theories as of now, but this is fluid, and I want to hear what other Ravens fans think. I want to hear what you guys think who are listening to this currently. You tell me what you're thinking, because right now my theory about this upcoming draft and how they want to build through the draft. This is not including free agency or any of that. In the draft, I think this should just be a defense, O-lineman, defense draft. I don't know how many draft picks we currently have. Things are subject to change, especially with, the compensatory pick formula. C.J. Mosley, he got put on IR. A lot of things changed. Justin Bethel, all that. We have yet to know how many draft picks we are going to have. But when it comes to drafting players, I think this defense is going to need the more help. It's going to need the influx of youth, because the offense already got that influx of youth and it's working. And I remember seeing something that there's like no players from this offense that aren't going to be on the team next year. So I think, in like the grand scope of things, like multiple year type things, we got to build this team around Lamar Jackson. He is too special for us not to put the best around him. We saw it with Joe Flacco. When you don't put players around him, it doesn't help. Right? You need to help improve your field general. You need to put some support towers around him. Now, I think Lamar Jackson's play style, it can kind of cover up a lot of different deficiencies. Like on the O-line, he's making people miss before they even know that they're free to the quarterback. Like, he's making defenders miss on the line before they're even free. Like, he's already moving to the right, moving to the left. He's already picked his lane and where he wants to go before he throws or inevitably runs. And I think it kind of, Lamar's, the way he plays kind of boosts everybody up. So that's why I think this Ravens team, this offseason, needs to be about the defense, because we're going to have a lot of moving parts on defense. Marcus Peters, huge part of this team. Is he even coming back? Are we going to sign him? Matthew Judon, the same exact question. Is he coming back? Are we going to sign him? And in all honesty, I'm not a fan of paying outside linebackers. And I think, this draft should be all defense, and more specifically, defensive line play. Notice how I didn't say pass rush. I don't know what other Ravens fans think about this, but my stance on it, and I said I was going to touch on it, is that you don't need a pass rusher. You need some pass rush, but you get pass rush from anywhere. You can get pass rush from linebackers, from middle linebackers, blitzing safeties, corners, defensive linemen. It's not just a pass rusher. And the reason I don't want a pass rusher is because then we won't run into this issue where we're dealing with, what do we do with Matthew Judon? If it's always a team, by committee approach, you're not going to have to deal with these, how are we going to pay him and this guy, and everybody knows his production will never match the contract that we're going to have to give him. Pass rushers make far too much money. And it's because, the importance of the quarterback position. They see, like, when they take over a game, it's amazing. It's fun to watch, and the offense can't do anything when the pass rush takes over. But I think the pass rush taking over a game, it's not an individual effort. It never is, no matter what you pay the guy. And I'm a huge fan of Matthew Judon. I love his attitude. He's cut down on the stupid penalties. He's had a couple this year, but he's cut down on it, right? And I love the attitude, like, hey, I'm going to hurt you. Put a little extra hit on the quarterback. You may get a 15-yard penalty. It's okay. It's whatever. I want him to feel that pain. And I love his attitude in the locker room. Body built by Taco Bell. I mean, that's something you can't really quantify. You can't really pay for. But the amount of money, he's going to get more money than Zadarius Smith. I mean, he's going to get around that much money. What did he get? Like $15 million a year? That is too much money to pay. And I know, talked about it, the collective bargaining agreement is coming up. There's going to be an influx of money. That's what everyone's talking about, that there's going to be an influx of money. And so some of these contracts, they may look crazy now. You pay Matthew Judon $15 million, but then in 2 years, that $15 million is like half what the leader is making. Like, a pass rusher could be making $30 million. Who fucking knows where this could go? If there's more influx of money, bad teams are going to continue to overpay. It's not going to change anything, and players are going to demand more. It's a rising tide raises all boats, even though in this situation, it's a rising fire burns all trees, because it's not a good thing when you have to pay players more money. Now, I'm all for paying the players, all about the players, and get what you deserve. But when it comes to the team building side of things, you can't allocate too much money to one guy, and especially the defensive line. Right? The defensive line, in my opinion, is done by committee. It naturally is. How many guys? There's never just one pass rusher out there. But I think, the way the NFL is going, and I've talked about this before, and I'm going to continue to talk about it, make my case to why I think I'm right. The way the NFL is going with the mobile quarterback, Lamar has kind of changed things a little bit. People are going to be looking towards that, but people have already been looking towards that. The NFL has already started, before even Lamar came to the league, has shifted towards a mobile quarterback, not so much a running quarterback, because Lamar is a running quarterback. Cam Newton, running quarterback. I don't even know if you could say Deshaun Watson is. He's more of a scrambler. But I mean, these quarterbacks who pick up and run. They will run at any moment. All of them are mobile enough in the quarterback. There are very few and far between statues in the pocket. Every single quarterback has reached a threshold of mobility where they can escape a little bit. Right? They've all reached a certain level where it's like, okay, they're athletic enough where they can get by. They're not going to be juking like Lamar. Juke it like Lamar. Juke it like Lamar. It's from last episode. The new Lamar song that's going to be hitting the radio waves. I'm 100% sure that there's going to be a song called Lamar at some point in the offseason going into the new season. I've talked about this. Lamar's going to be a superstar. All this fun stuff. You can go listen to the last episode if you didn't. Talk about it more there. But these quarterbacks, right, they're going to be mobile. So you can't have a single pass rusher do his thing. I think you need a group of guys to, like I've been saying, and comparing it to just Mike Myers, just walk slowly with a knife until you get there, and eventually they're going to, the chick in the movie, she's going to run away, break her leg, and she's going to be stuck and scream for her life, and she won't be able to do nothing about it. Because she was sprinting away, it was too little, too late. She saw the pass rush too late. She saw Mike Myers too late, so she started sprinting like, oh fuck, and that's when you trip and fall and you get a sack. This analogy is kind of like all over the place, but I think you kind of get my point. Where you need a slow push to collapse the pocket. I think the way the NFL is going, leaving a lane in the pass rush department is going to be as bad as not setting the edge. You know what I mean? If you don't set the edge, then a team can just run outside all fucking game. And it's going to be an issue, and it's going to lose you the game. And so I think with the way the NFL is going, I'm going to keep saying that phrase, I guess. If you leave a pass rush lane, if you leave a lane open in the pocket, the quarterbacks are going to take it. And it's going to be a thing they continue to practice because, they know, okay, Von Miller's on this side. He's always going to be right here. He's going to be shooting up real quick and trying to take that sack inside, or that spin move inside. And we know that's going to happen. So I can just go here, boom, boom, juke this way, move the pocket, and then boom, touchdown. It's not that simple. It's not a bada bing, bada boom thing. But I hope you hear my point. You understand kind of where I'm going with this. You need to just create a wall. And then when the play starts, that wall turns into a fishbowl, then turns into a circle, then turns into a black hole neutron star, and you blow up the quarterback, right? Where it shrinks, right? The pass rush needs to be kind of like a black hole, where the gravity just sucks everyone in towards the quarterback. Like the quarterback is the black hole, and our pass rush is anything in its way. To where the quarterback, where he is, should just pull everyone in towards that. I don't want anybody going up the field and then doing some side move. And obviously, it's not, you can never make this like a perfect thing. Obviously, that the idea that a pass rusher is not important, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is you do it by committee, and you do it by guys who can stack up the opposing offensive lineman, keep him where he wants him. I want every single one of our defensive linemen to have the ability to where the coach can say, hey, I want everybody to take their offensive lineman and move them 1 yard over. Now, that's not something that you would use, but I want them to have that ability where you can say, all right, this is where we want the offensive line to be on this play because we want our linebackers to go here, go there. We want a safety doing this and that. You make it so that you move the offense. You dictate where you want the offense to be. And that's kind of like where this whole kind of thing that I'm talking about. Like the defensive line needs to dictate where the offense goes. I don't know if that's I don't think I'm saying it right, but defensive line, sacks in general, it's by committee. And you can't pay one dude in that committee way too much because it messes everything up. Then you're not able to pay other guys. And so I think in this draft, which is a long form way to get to this point, we need to draft defensive linemen, defensive ends, all guys that can stack up their guy. Big dudes who know how to set the edge. I don't want someone who's a pass rush specialist. That is not what I want for this team. That is the opposite of what I want. I want guys who can do multiple things. Like, just look at Jihad Ward. He is not a pass rusher. He is a defensive lineman, a 5-tech, a defensive end, and they've used him, and he's gotten excellent push up against in the pass rush game. I just don't want, where I think the league is going with these mobile quarterbacks, I don't want it to be a detriment. I don't want our team to, we got all these great pass rushers, right? I mean, we don't even have that right now. But if we were to go down that route, then maybe we would. And then it's like, oh, fuck, here we go. You got the lanes open, the quarterback's going to be running all over the place. God damn it. And I think Eric DeCosta is already kind of on this thought train. That's why you get Jalen Ferguson. He is not, he was a great pass rusher in college. I mean, he broke Terrell Suggs' record. But he was in the power game, right? He is a bull rush dude. He's not a spin move, flash and dash and all this kind of fun stuff. No, it's meat and potatoes pass rush. That's what I want. That's a better way to put it. Meat and potatoes pass rush. So that's what I'm looking for. And obviously, linebackers, inside linebackers, really. I'm looking, when I say defense, I'm thinking more front seven. I think it's always a smart decision to go with a cornerback. But, for it to make any sense, I think it has to be a first-round cornerback. But, that is not our biggest need, We'd rather use that somewhere else. And, I say first-round cornerback just because I think that's where the value is. If you can get a cornerback in the 4th round like we got Tavon Young, and it works out tremendously. That's great. That's awesome. And you got to trust your eye when you're drafting and all that fun stuff. But, when it comes to positional value, I think you got to go like inside linebacker maybe, defensive line in the 1st round, defensive end, not a pass rush. But, I think we need to bolster the front seven. I think that's where this team lacks. I think we got a very strong secondary. Depending on what happens with Marcus Peters and Jimmy Smith, maybe that'll change. Maybe I'll change to, hey, I want them to grab a first-round wide receiver. Or not wide receiver, cornerback. Maybe that'll change. One of the most valuable positions, I think it goes quarterback, then cornerback. Quarterback first, most valuable, and then second most valuable is cornerback. So I got to enunciate because I'm talking real fast here. I'm excited. I'm hyped about this team, where this team can go, and I'm going to be breaking down all the fucking players. Not all of them, but I mean the ones that I like, the ones that I think match up with what I think the Ravens should do. Last year, I think I nailed what the Ravens should do and what they actually did. I thought that was aligned well last year. So I had a lot of players that I really liked that not only the Ravens drafted, but looked at. I really liked their draft this year because they were all players that I was hyped about. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything right now, but except maybe Dalen Mack. I didn't really think defensive line, but that's what this Ravens team does. You get the positions where you're going to need depth, and cornerback and defensive line are always the depth spots on defense. And when it comes to inside linebacker, especially this upcoming year, I really liked the guy we got that was undrafted, the guy from Texas A&M. I can't think of his name right now, but he got injured in the preseason. He had success in the preseason, but I loved his game, and I loved what he did because I think right now it would match exactly what we need. What the fuck was his name? He had like a weird name, but we're not asking our inside linebackers to cover as much as we used to. Obviously, it still happens. It still comes up when the running back goes out wide or running back out of the backfield. Obviously, they still have to cover. But where the inside linebackers on the Ravens team, where they make their money, is in the run game. We have these great defensive linemen stack up, and it allows the inside linebackers to run free. And that's what we need. We need a good run-stuffing inside linebacker. And I love what LJ Fort and Josh Bynes have brought to the table. They've been a godsend since they've come in here, we haven't lost. You can't point to just them. But hey, numbers are the numbers, right? Point to the stats that help you out. But that's where our inside linebackers make their money, in the run game. So I think inside linebacker, major key. Depending on what we do at the cornerback position, I think that could turn into the most valuable position that we need. And then defensive line. Now, obviously, I still think you should draft offensive linemen. I think every single draft you should take at least one. It's just one of those things. The way the NFL is, blocking has just not been as good. They're offensive linemen, they're just not as good coming out of the draft. That's what everyone says, and you can see it on the field. Defensive linemen have gotten better, and offensive linemen have kind of just stayed the same. And if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. That's one of John Harbaugh's things that he says. So I want the Ravens to build up this team around Lamar Jackson. I just don't think this offseason is the offseason to do it. And, if the Ravens go out and they draft equally on both sides, I wouldn't be upset about that. But I think, we need to hit on our players on defense. And I just think drafting more defensive players allows us to hit more on that. It gives us a more likely chance to hit on those players. It's just like the lottery. The more players you bring in, the more of a chance you have that those players are going to be great. Not that they're going to be great, but I mean more of a chance that one of the players that you drafted is great. Right? It doesn't change how their career is going to go. How many players you draft, it just changes the likelihood that the player that you drafted is successful. How many of those players do have success. I just think, after this year, I think there's going to be a lot up in the air with the defense. That's just what I think's going to happen. That's how it's kind of shaping up. And like I said, this offense, a lot of them are under contract for next year, if not all of them, all of our starting offense. So obviously, maybe we want to get depth piece, but I think when thinking about drafting on offense, what do the Ravens need? I think offensive linemen first and foremost. With this Lamar-led team, always offensive linemen. No matter who's at quarterback, really, offensive lineman is the most important. Then second, I would say just another wide receiver. Now, I know Ravens fans and their wide receivers get crazy about it. We had trouble drafting him until Marquise Brown. I think Marquise Brown next year, I think he's going to be one of the touchdown leader. Maybe not so much yardage or catches, but I think touchdown leader. If he gets fully healthy in the offseason, all that fun stuff, I think he's one of the most electrifying wide receivers in the NFL. He was that way coming out in the draft, and that's why they got him. He's this big play guy, like we're talking about Tyreek Hill. He's unguardable. To a certain point, his speed is just too much for too many players. And so he is going to, I think, garner a lot of double teams. And so if we had another deep speed threat, that'd be amazing. But when it comes to the wide receiver position, this is the year to do it. There's a lot of great wide receivers coming out this year, a lot of top-end talent. So maybe you'd be able to get one, later in the first round. But I think, if you draft wide receiver, I think it has to be in the first round for it to be worth it. Obviously, you can grab one in the fourth round, just like any of these positions. And the Ravens have proven it. Hey, you can grab a guy later on, and it works out perfectly for you. Works out swimmingly. But there's a reason guys go in the first round. They are the better prospects. And I think wide receiver, it's one of those positions where you may get lucky in the second, third, fourth round. But I think, if you go get your guy in the first round. I want them to get the best guy. Now, I think this draft, it makes it tough because I want them to go all defense. But the wide receivers in this draft are amazing. And I think even at the end of the first round, there's going to be number one type receivers. I'm a huge fan of T. Higgins, huge fan of Henry Ruggs. I think both of which, very different play styles, but both of which could help this Ravens offense. Bring something new to the table. T. Higgins, obviously, go up and get him kind of guy. He reminds me a lot of DeAndre Hopkins, obviously, from Clemson. A lot of players have come out of Clemson like, oh, this is the next DeAndre Hopkins. I really do think T. Higgins is that guy. But Henry Ruggs, just another speed guy. I saw something. He was clocked at 24 miles an hour on a football field with pads, with the ball in his hands at 24 miles an hour. The fastest Usain Bolt's ever been tracked is 26 miles an hour. Obviously, 2 miles an hour, that's fast. When it comes to running, that is a huge difference. But on the football field, I don't think anybody's ever been tracked going as fast. Since they've been tracking people, I don't think anybody's been tracked going as fast as Henry Ruggs. So I think you get Marquise Brown and Henry Ruggs on the field. That's a deadly combo, right? But like I said, team building. Obviously, a wide receiver, it's flash, and it'll help your team in the stat line, and you'll see it, right then and there, like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. He helps our team so much. But it's like how you need your support guys, right? I play a game on my iPad called Balloon Tower Defense 6. It's a stupid game. It's a tower defense game, right? And so the objective of the game is you got to beat the rounds. You get these monkey towers. This is really dumb, and it's going to sound stupid, but it makes sense. You get these monkey towers, and you get waves of balloons, and you got to pop the balloons. I don't know what the fucking point of monkeys popping balloons. I don't know why someone created this game and why they made them balloons and why they made them monkeys. It doesn't really matter. The idea still sits, right? You have these towers. You got like a super monkey tower. That's Lamar Jackson. He pops everything. He's an amazing tower. He's excellent. You can upgrade the tower. It's whatever. But, how do you surround this tower? Do you add other towers that pop balloons? Or do you add a tower that helps the super monkey? It helps the super monkey. This sounds so fucking ridiculous to me. It probably does to you too. But, you could put a tower down that increases its speed. It doubles its speed. Obviously, that tower, it's not going to pop a bunch of balloons. So when you're looking at the stat line, it's like you didn't pop any balloons this year. But what it does is it helps Lamar, it helps this super monkey pop more balloons at an extraordinary level. It's like offensive line and defensive line. That's what these guys do. These are support monkey towers. I mean, it sounds really dumb. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think it makes perfect sense. How do you want to build a team? You could grab a wide receiver, and he's going to and he's going to be a new tower. He's going to be a new super monkey. You can see, look at all these balloons he popped, right? But, could you, how do you balance that with also getting a support tower, also getting something that supports your super monkey? These are the questions. These are the questions we need to be asking, and how you want to build the team. And so I think this draft, I'd like to see them go all defense, really. Maybe an offensive lineman. But if they go wide receiver, it's got to be in the first round. That's the biggest thing with me. When I dive deep, I can look at all these wide receivers and say, oh, this guy's going to be great, this guy's going to be great. But I already named you 2 wide receivers that I'd be happy with. I just think the talent, what we need out of a wide receiver is speed. We got guys who can block. We can put those guys in, and it's going to be amazing. We got the tight ends to do it. The way we play, maybe wide receiver isn't even the most important. But I think, clutch time, putting up big points, I don't think that's a negative. The way this team is going, it's bruise them, pound them in the ground, run game, blocking, tight ends. That's awesome. That's fun, and it's working. But it could be even better if we were just flashy, even more flashy at wide receiver. If Lamar could pull up, just drop a dime whenever he wants, drop a long ball whenever he wants, because we got Marquise Brown. He can do that. It's just he's not on the field every single play. These guys get tired. If you can have 2 guys on the field at any time that can just take a long ball to the house, what is the defense going to do? When you combine that with what we're doing on offense in the run game and Lamar Jackson, it's going to be impossible to stop. I think you build the offense, we can really make an offensive dynasty with Lamar Jackson. I genuinely believe that. But team building wise, I think like the difference of increase, right? I think, after this year, our offense is going to kind of stay at the same level. And our defense is going to drop a little bit. And it's all depending on what we do with these players. We have a bunch of cap room. Do we sign these guys? Do we not? We are older on defense. So I think, the amount, I guess the better you could get on defense is more than you could get on offense, if that makes any sense. I think drafting 2 players on defense versus 2 players on offense, I think the 2 players on defense would improve our defense more than what the 2 players we drafted on offense would do. And obviously that depends on who they are, blah, 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 all this. But I just think improve the defense. Remember, this is a football game that's played on all 3 phases, offense, defense, special teams. And if anything, if we could just draft special teams player, after that New York game, what the fuck, guys? Can we get some special teams? Can we draft just special teams players? And it kind of goes to what I was saying with the wide receiver. Maybe we do grab Henry Ruggs in the first round because we need a punt returner. I like what Deontay, whatever his fucking name is, DeAnthony Thomas. I like what he's done. But Henry Ruggs, he was a return specialist and an offensive weapon at Alabama, mind you. One of the fastest players on the field. One of the most electric players on the field. So maybe I'm changing my own mind here. I know the first round wide receiver, we don't need that. We need pass rush. I imagine that's what I'm going to hear. But I'm here to tell you, I don't think we need pass rushers. We need pass rush. Now, I think there's a huge difference, all right? And I hope I can kind of sway the conversation in the Ravens community. I know I don't get like a ton of views, but I'm hoping you're hearing what I'm saying and you say, that does make sense, right? The way the NFL's going, I already laid it out. I already went on my whole spiel. But I think that's how we need to attack it, right? The NFL is a fluid kind of system. There's no one way to do things. But, I think things are changing. Who are the dominant pass rushers in this league? Von Miller, Khalil Mack. What have they done all year? Obviously, I only named 2. But, even Nick Bosa, right? He's having a tremendous year. Probably going to be the defensive rookie of the year. I would just guarantee that, honestly. But he has other first-round talent around him. If he didn't have all that talent around him, would he be the same? It's a by-committee thing. The whole team is really a by-committee thing. So no matter who you draft, who you bring in, it's going to help your team no matter what, unless he's a bust. But, these are the questions I will continue asking myself, continue trying to answer, and I hope you ask yourselves that too. I hope you also ask yourselves these same questions. How would you like the Ravens to build this team? And my answer currently is defense still wins championships. I think offense will win you the MVP. It'll win you the regular season, and that's been proven this year. But I still think in the playoffs, in a championship, defense still wins championships. I feel like I'm on that Geico commercial or whatever insurance company put out that commercial where the people are turning into their parents and they're doing that support group thing and they're saying, yeah, I say phrases like defense wins championships. And then someone else chimes in, well, it does. Because I think it does. I genuinely still believe, I still subscribe to that. I think offense has definitely become more important. It's become more important in the NFL, but I think it's important in the regular season. We saw what happened in the Super Bowl this year. The best offense, the Rams, killing it all fucking year, but then they run into a defense and they get shut down. And so I think, the best way to help Lamar Jackson is to stop opposing teams from scoring points. It's really what it is. It's complementary football, all that fun stuff. I am sure I will be debating this a bunch, in my own mind with possibly other people. I'll talk to the other Ravens YouTubers. I'll get their opinion, and we will help us. I don't know. We'll help the fan base. We'll listen to you guys. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but this podcast. Holy shit. It's been 56 minutes. Jesus, hell. I didn't even take a break once. I did not pause once this entire episode. And I want you to know that it may not be live, but this is live. I didn't pause it, didn't stop it. I love Ravens football. Hence the name Craven Some Raven. It's not a podcast. It's a way of life. All right? I got a fever. And the only prescription, some more Ravens. All right? So, all things considered, the season isn't even close to done yet. Hopefully the Ravens are playing for another 2 months. In February? I guess a month and a half, whatever it is. I hope we're playing in February, right? And we still have tons of stuff to talk about up until that point. Tons of games. We'll break down each and every game. But I'm just getting a little bit of a head start. There wasn't really a game on Sunday to talk about. So I just wanted to talk about big picture things. Do a little bit of house cleaning. Go over with you guys some of my thoughts and feelings about this upcoming draft. It is getting towards the end of the year. A lot of teams are already looking towards the draft. So I wanted to look at it a little bit. You got to try and gauge what other teams are thinking, what other teams' fan bases are thinking about, who they want, and, kind of judge, like, oh, well, what do we want? Already starting to think about it because the team building process is a year-long thing, and that's kind of my favorite part of the NFL. The team building, bringing a bunch of people together with a common goal to get a Super Bowl win. And honestly, one of my favorite parts, once I started nerding out in the draft, it made football that much better. Because now I see, a player come in, like, who is that? It's like, no, I know who that is. He's from this school. Not so much with every player, but it's like I recognize that name. And I remember seeing him in the draft process, watching him play, and it's like, oh, you could see that. And then you see him make the jump. And so makes it a lot of fun. It helps you in fantasy. If you really go balls deep in the draft, it helps you in fantasy. It helps you in betting. It just helps you learn kind of the NFL from the inside out. Because when I'm talking about it, when you talk about the draft, it's just like building a team. You're learning it from the inside. I don't know where I'm going with this. I honestly started talking, saying that analogy, and without knowing where I was going, kind of like a Michael Scott. Sometimes I just talk and don't know where it's going. But we're a minute away from an hour, so I guess I can just bullshit just to reach that hour mark, just to say I did it again. Another hour. Killing it. So yeah, please in the comments section, let me know your thoughts about my thoughts. Thoughtception. Tell me if it's a player that you like. I'm going to be looking over it damn near every single player. So I will have an opinion on these guys. But, the core to the draft process is having a strategy, right? And, when it comes to covering the Ravens in the draft process, I have to think, what do I think the Ravens strategy should be? Or what do I think they're going to do? And what do I think they should do? Because honestly, if think like, oh, this is what they should do, you hope that the front office also feels the same way, because obviously I feel like I'd be right. Like, hey, this is the way this team should kind of be going. This is how you build a great team around Lamar Jackson. And hopefully, Eric DeCosta is a genius and he sides with me. Hopefully I'm smart enough to agree with Eric DeCosta, right? With his team building philosophy. And that doesn't even bring in, I'm literally just talking about building it through the draft, but there's still free agency. There's still all that other fun stuff that is part of everything, this whole crazy clusterfuck of the NFL. I cannot wait for the offseason. I felt I did a great fucking job last year. If you listen to any of my videos, if you were around back then, I was right about a lot of players. Yeah, I don't talk about the ones I was wrong about, but you know what? It is what it is. I was right about a lot of players, especially wide receiver. That was the big contention point in Ravens fans, that last offseason. But I still think, we're not done there yet. I want them to build around the offense, but like I said, one more year, just because I think, we're going to have a lot of losses on defense. I think we just need to replenish that, keep our defense where it's at now. If we continue the same level of play next year that we had this year, I mean, we're not at the Super Bowl yet, but repeat, we can start talking dynasties. I mean, hell, the sky is the limit. And if you can't tell, I am fucking hyped about this team, what they've done this year, the way they've built this team. They're going into the playoffs, and it's truly going to be special. The way Lamar is playing, I talked about it way before. He has a chance to be special. I think he's going to be amazing, great among all the NFL. I think he's going to be a superstar, and it has just been so fun to watch. So let's keep it up. Let's keep this fun train going. And you know what? I will go for another hour if I don't stop now. Maybe you want to hear that, maybe you don't. Maybe you've already stopped listening, but if you listen to this whole thing, please drop a like. If you're listening on iTunes or Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, one of the podcasting apps, which I'm on. If you're not on that, please subscribe to that. I want to get my numbers up, man. I want to, when I look up my name in Apple Podcasts, or when I look up Baltimore Ravens podcast in the iTunes app, I want to see mine come up. It's bullshit that it doesn't, because I am craving some Raven. So if you're listening on YouTube, if you listen to it in podcast form, you'll be able to lock your phone, put it in your pocket, and listen to some great Ravens content. And isn't that what it's all about? I listen to podcasts at work all the time. And I like to be able to, I need to use my calculator at work all the time. So I just use my phone, pull out my phone, still listening to podcasts, still listening to music. The ability to lock your phone, do other stuff on your phone, look at Twitter while listening to a podcast. You could be listening to me and scrolling Twitter and working at the same time. I don't know how your job works, but mine, I'm a machinist, I'm running parts. It's not safe. You're not supposed to be listening to stuff, but we're just a chill shop. So I'll listen to a podcast, I'll be on my phone, waiting for my parts to come out of the machine, and then boom, bada bing, bada boom, I'm learning about Ravens, I'm learning about life, depending on the podcast or the music, getting hyped, and I can use my calculator when I need to, I can check Twitter. It's just amazing. So if you love this show, please feel free to help me out. You don't have to. I would love if you did. Shameless, I know, but with that being said, I will leave you. I'll talk to you soon. And I will leave you with a Go Ravens!